participants, thank you so much. I know I always say I know a lot of people have a lot of things to do, and I appreciate you taking the time to join us today. So I know people will be trickling in as we go through today's talk and we go through today's webinar, and it's going to be an exciting one because it's all about talent, and it's all about talent development. And that's one of my favorite things to do: develop talent, develop people. And I brought a very special friend on with me today, Coach Bill Gentry, who is first class at identifying talent and seeing the best within people. So with that being said, Bill, before we kick off, I put a few slides together that we can share with everybody today. But did you have anything that you want to say in regards to today's kickoff?
No, in our background, I hate to use the word kickoff, but how about today's home run?
That works. That works.
Hey, I'm just glad to be here with you, Dana, and I'm glad that you have the input that you do, and all the people that are joining in and just seeking your help, your guidance. It's beneficial, and it's important.
Thank you. Cool. So everybody, there's also a chat for those of you that are not calling in, but you're on with us today live, and you can see everything. I'm gonna run a presentation to go alongside this, but also a chat as well. So as things come up, if you want to chime in, please do, and we'll do our best to rock and roll here. So I'm gonna hit share screen, and with that, we're gonna get going, give you some visuals besides Bill and I, even though I'm sure it's we're good to look at too. But we'll start off here with today's presentation. So developing A+ talent like a pro, right? And the whole idea here is I work with so many people in business, and the number one complaint that they have is always about their people. It's always about their talent. So I said, you know what? Instead of us just talking about it and complaining about it, in sports, we say we have to be about it. We have to be about change. We have to be about learning how to create change and learning how to get the most out of our people. So I brought Bill on today too, not just from a baseball and scouting and coaching perspective, but also based on his background in law enforcement, as well as the military, most specifically the Marines. So it's always good to have, somebody having a loyal soldier on our side. So, but yesterday we did some talking, and we talked a lot about just what makes a great player. And there's a word that we use in baseball quite a bit, and Bill will attest this. It's the word is makeup. And the word makeup, it's not often used really in any other industries. And this is something that we were talking about, right, Bill? The word makeup.
Yes.
So
makeup is huge. It's essential.
So there's a lot of people on today that are like, makeup, the ladies know what makeup is, and the guys are thinking that they know what makeup is. But the way we think about makeup in the world of sports, and as it relates to talent development, is simply what somebody's made of. Now, Bill, how do you see makeup? What's makeup to you?
Well, it's the way you carry yourself, the way you present yourself, your maturity level. Or do you take care of business? Are you a team player? Are you a follower? Basically, that's what we look at. I think in a shorter term is, do you have your act together? Are you a good teammate? Or is it all about you? So when we look at makeup, we look at those things. The character is huge. It's essential. All these things, I mean, you can have your tools, the tools that we look for when we scout, the player's ability and skill set, but makeup is huge, because you can have the best tools in the world, but if you don't have the makeup, you're not going to fit in. You're not going to be a guy in the clubhouse. You're not going to be a guy that the team revolves around or responds to.
Yeah, and alongside that the equivalent, I guess, let's say what so many do in business is they look at a resume and they're evaluating talent based on a resume. And, in sports, we look at a scouting report. Hey, what has this guy done? How does he hit? How does he throw? How does he run? All of those things. But the sort of intangible quality that we're always looking at, and oftentimes it's just based on, it's something you see with experience. It's something you feel, and that's a player's makeup. What is this person made of? And I always say, when you're building out a team, you have to know the kind of team that you want. And in sports, right, if you're building your team around speed, what kind of players would you want, right? We'd be looking to identify players that can play more of that speed game, move a guy over, drop a bunt. And the same is true in business. So what kind of team are you looking to build?
Exactly. There's a couple things that make it nice, and it's kind of easy to see. If we go meet a player and meet his family, we get an idea of what that person is, and where he comes from, his background, what makes up his existence, who are his parents, who are his friends. And like in baseball, before signing is done and everything, when you get to know the player, when you're out recruiting him or watching him, you want to talk to the people who know him. You want to talk to coaches, friends, neighbors, family. It's all important. And when you have a visit, I always, and sometimes it's kind of shocking, but I like to say, hey, can we take a look at your room? And all of a sudden you see either fear or they're fine. They're comfortable or they're not, because they didn't expect that. But I can see when I take a look at it, is their bed made? Is their room in order? Or is it a disaster? Did a grenade go off in there? So you can pull a kid out of a game. Tell a coach, hey, it's a scout ball game. Hey, pull that guy, pull your shortstop out. He's your number one player out there. Pull him out. I want to see how he reacts. And that will speak volumes about character and makeup.
Yeah, I have one of my clients. He started a company called Steiner Sports. They were the number one collectibles, seller of collectibles, really in the world. And Brandon Steiner's the founder, and he said something really interesting. When people would come in for a job interview, and those of you that are in colder climates can relate to this. He would always ask them, hey, when you were a kid and you had a snow day and school was closed for the day, what did you do? And he said the kid that said, hey, I stayed home, I watched TV all day, I drank hot chocolate and I did nothing, was not the guy that he wanted on his team. He wanted the person that said, hey, you know what I did? I put on my boots, I put on my snowsuit, and I went out and I shoveled driveways and made a few bucks. So that was the attitude, right? Because his organization was such a sales-based organization that he wanted people that were motivated, internally. They were hunters by nature, not so much people that he had to train and teach them to hunt. So I would say a lot of the issues that companies face specifically and teams face specifically, a lot of those issues could probably be addressed right from the start with a couple key questions that help the person that's asking those questions identify who the person really is just based on their makeup.
Exactly.
And a question, Bill, you said about, you can't go to somebody's house and see if they're making their bed, but a simple question, do you make your bed? It's a totally offbeat question to ask somebody, especially in a professional setting, but it's a question that has power behind it because it's showing you who they really are. And the more we can get to know who they really are, the better. We used to have a rule in New York, with the Yankees, and we would say this, someone can give you 3 good months. They can give you 90 days of their best behavior. But past 90 days, they'll show you who they really are.
Exactly. And, I'm sure you'll probably talk about it later, but it's about having the right people in place to get what you need to accomplish done. You have to start with having the right people. And when you go out and research talent or go out and look for talent, you have to project, you have to look forward, you have to see what that person is going to be. And it starts with who they are, because if they're not that person now, are they going to be, or are you going to be able to make them that person later? And there's some things that you can develop, certain skills, and there's some things that you can't. And makeup is part of that. Will a person change with maturity? Possibly. Or is it what you see is what you get? So makeup is huge. Those questions are huge.
Exactly. How does somebody dress, right? How do they show up? Are they groomed? Do they value things that you find to be important, right? And there's a question
Exactly.
from Doug here that says, hey, in business, when HR rules won't allow you to meet the family or do a home visit, you can really dig into their youth and upbringing, engage these important traits. Are they innate? Were they developed from a young age, and why do they make their bed? So that's true. You can start digging, right? You ask the right question. The key is, it's always, I learned this. The question behind the question is probably more important than the initial question.
Exactly. A lot of guys tell me, Coach, a lot of what you're saying, it seems to be cryptic. And I said, well, what do you mean by cryptic? And it says, well, you're asking questions, or you're saying things that are going to bring a response out of this for what you really want or what you're really looking for. And I just tell them exactly. It's exactly what I'm doing. I'm digging and I'm finding a way into who you are and what you're made of. What's it going to take? Who are you going to be? Are you going to be a producer? Are you going to be a team player? I know a lot of companies are bound by different HR rules and protection of individual privacy and stuff like that. So there's always a way legitimately around that. Like asking the question, hey, when you get up in the morning, do you make your bed? No. Why not? Well, my wife makes it when she gets up or what. But you know what? They don't understand that's the first task of your day. That starts your day. First task completed, at least to completing the next task. So it's those things that, or what is your daily routine? What do you do every morning? It starts to paint the picture of who and what that person is.
Yeah, exactly. That's when I wrote the book, Habits of a Champion. That's what it was about. It was about habits, understanding people's habits, teaching, not a plug, but teaching habits so people can see what do people that have achieved high levels of success do? What are they all about? And it's really important that we know that. So makeup is where it begins. Who a person is, what they're about, right? So it's, if you think about it, in developing A+ talent or developing pro level talent, once I know who you are, then I'm able to take that next step. And that next step, again, a term that we use is projection. We can project based on who you are right now in real time. I'm going to project on you, and I'm going to determine who you are capable of being and who you are capable of becoming. So
Exactly.
Bill, projection, how do you use projection in terms of making decisions, in terms of, bringing the right players into your organization?
Well, projection is huge because it's all we have to go on. You have your observation skills. We can take the statistics. We can take all the data that's gathered by all of our statisticians. Now they're putting everything together. There's so much as far as statistical data. We're almost overrun with it right now. But you can take that statistical data and you can lay it out on paper, and you can say that, hey, this guy is going to meet the needs of the organization. This is exactly what we're looking for. This is our best candidate. This is our best candidate, based on statistical information. But then we go back to, does the paper tell the whole story? No. Then you have to go back to the makeup. So it's up to us. We have to take that statistical information. Then we have to get to know that person. What are they made of? Are they the ones that work so hard? And we discuss this a lot with the guys that I train, that you should be working so hard that you never have to introduce yourself because people know who you are. But when you take that personal component out and just use statistics, you lose valuable insight. You lose valuable information on who that person is. Let's look at a recent player that most people would know, Yasiel Puig. If you look on paper, Yasiel Puig is phenomenal. Stats, phenomenal. Got a bat. He can hit for power. He's got a cannon for an arm. He's athletic. His makeup, I don't know. That's what's caused him his job in professional baseball. He doesn't fit into the clubhouse. He's hard to deal with. He becomes a cancer. These are the things that are very difficult for an organization to handle once that person is in. But if you looked at just statistical data, he was that shining star.
Yeah.
But his makeup side, very difficult.
Yeah. And Bill, here's the thing. There's a question that came in from Christian, or a comment, right? Projecting future outcomes begins with setting a daily routine that enables growth to get there. And here's the thing, Christian, the way we're looking at projection is actually different than that. It actually doesn't have to do with current routines, based on a current routine that we put them on. It's strictly saying, hey, when I look at that player, what's his makeup and what do I project him to be? First off, without me giving him anything, who is he naturally going to become? And then if we give him what we're going to get into next, the hard skills and the soft skills, man, then he's going to take off. So that's where the routines come in, the habits come in, and the coaching and the daily interaction and daily development comes in. So projection is again, based, here's who you are, and I'm projecting you to be this once I give you more tools, but I also want to know who you'll become even if I don't give you any tools.
Exactly. You got to think that most guys in Major League Baseball are going to reach their full potential by age 25. So your job, like in sports, and it can transfer to the public sector as well. I got to look at what you have now. Are you coachable? Are you a team guy? Is there something to work with? And is our organization the organization that is going to be able to further your skills for your benefit and for ours? And then taking that, say you're 18, 19, 20 years old, we have to make a projection based on all that information on who this person is going to be at age 23. It's kind of like bringing out the crystal ball. We're throwing all the data in. We're throwing all our observations in. We're throwing our feelings, our gut feelings in, and we're saying that I believe that at age 23, 24, this is who this person is going to be.
Yeah. And what's interesting, you said a couple very important things there that I don't want to get overlooked. You folks, there's people in your organizations that are 23, 24, 25, maybe even 22, first job, and they're not coachable. So you got to remember that. There may be people in your organization that they have huge potential, but because they're not coachable, they're never going to reach that potential. So that's one thing that Bill pointed out. The other thing is you have to know what sort of organization you run. So when you look at a player's makeup and you look at a team player's projection, what you expect them to be, you have to ask yourself, hey, does my organization have the training? Does it have the developmental philosophy and tools to actually get that player to where it is I'm projecting him or her to be or get to? And that's an important question. There are some organizations out there like Blackstone Capital. Steve Schwartzman is the CEO. And he said, I never want someone to come into my organization and struggle because they haven't gotten the development from us. So that's an organization that's committed to development. But there's a lot of others that expect people to come in. They're hiring based on makeup. They're hiring based on projection. And they're going to give you very little. They're going to give the employee very little, day to day, week to week, month to month, quarter to quarter, year to year development. But they're expecting that player to go. So you always have to know what sort of organization you run and what kind of organization, organizational philosophy you have.
Right. Even I can dumb it down or simplify it in like a personal training business. When I train amateur players, young amateur players, I'll do an evaluation of that player before they start training with me. We'll sit down, we'll go through an hour workout, we'll do an evaluation, which gives me a chance to feel who they are, what they're about, what their goals are, and do they have it inside of them to get there? And that's important. And then once I get that established in that evaluation period, I look at them and say, do I have the capability to get them to the next level? Do I have the things in place? The knowledge, the training, the facility, the people to get that person to the next level. If I don't, then I need to refer them someplace that does. And if I don't, why don't I? And then I need to start making corrections on my part to take a person like that to the next level. Otherwise, why am I taking their money? Why am I devoting my time and taking their time if I can't advance it?
Yeah. It's almost like, too, a lot of leaders have to check themselves, right? And ask themselves, hey, what is my makeup? What is the projection, of my organization? I meet so many leaders that say, hey, I want my company, I want my team or department, or business to go here. the question is, that I have is, do you have the makeup? Have you made the investment, like you're saying, Bill, in people, in tools, in facilities to actually get where it is that you say you want to go?
Right. I think before you think about where you got to go, you got to think about who you have.
Yeah.
Who you have and who are you? What can you do? Until you got the who, until you got who you have to select those people. Then you can drive to where you need to go. You have to be able to complete the who before you can get to where you're going.
Yeah.
So you should be thinking about who you are, who you're bringing on, and how you're going to get them there before you determine where you're going.
Exactly.
That's my feeling.
Yeah, I agree with you. And, I want to throw this out there too, as we're talking. I just think something that I love about sports culture versus a lot of business culture is I feel like sports culture there is typically a lot of support. There's a lot of energy. There's a lot of care about truly advancing people. And I always believe that if that same passion for advancing people, that same support was in corporate environments and business environments, the culture discussion that is always out there, right? About building a better culture and how do we create a better culture? Culture is an end result. It's not something, it's the end result of many different activities and interactions that take place day to day.
Yes. There's a saying like the 4 C's. Just because you're on a team doesn't mean that you have a team, or doesn't mean you are a team. Just because you're on a team doesn't mean you are a team. So, when you talk about teams and team concepts, you have to commit. Do you commit? Do they commit? Do you compete? Do they compete? Because, let's face it, business, sports, it's a competition. You're always competing to be better, to land that next sale, to provide great customer service. And do you care for each other? Because if you're in it for yourself, it's going to show. It's going to show, and it's going to be a team breakdown. So unless you're in it together, like in the Marine Corps, special ops in the Marine Corps, we always had this to follow by: never above you, never below you, always beside you. So I don't care what your rank was. On a team, we all had specific functions. We're cross-trained in everybody else's functions, which made us strong. And if one person was no longer there, taken out, injured, medevac, whatever, we were still be able to complete a mission because we know that person's job just like we know our own job. But when we talk about rank structure and CEOs or GMs or team managers, if you're not in the trenches, if you're not leading from the front, if you're not supporting your people by example, if you got that mentality of I'm in charge now, so I'm going to sit back, that's your guys' issue. You need to make it happen. You need to make it function. You're probably going to fail. And it's like risks. There's a lot of people out there that don't take risks. I tell my guys, you have to fail to proceed. You have to fail to get better. And if you're not taking that risk, if you're not risking that possible failure, then you're probably going to end up working for someone who is willing to take those risks.
Yeah.
So lead from the front, be an example, and don't expect the people under you to do anything that you wouldn't do yourself.
Yeah. No, I love that.
I hope I didn't get sideways on that.
No, it's good. No, that's good. I'm glad you brought that up. So again, it's all in line, right? Knowing who your people are, knowing how your team runs, projecting, and then, with all this, right, we're always trying to identify too, even I would imagine it's the same even in the military is what natural talents do people have? And I call that your hard skills. What are you naturally talented at? Those are your hard skills, and your soft skills are, what can I teach you? What are the things that I could work on and again, put programs in place and development programs in place that could actually amplify your whole skill set and your whole ability set and make you a much more, valuable player on the team.
Exactly. You said it right there. Your hard skills, the things you come to the table with naturally, do you have speed? Speed is natural. Speed, you can coach a few things, but speed really can't be coached. It's natural. Do you move fluidly? Or are there things that need to be worked out in your body mechanics or the way your body moves to make you a more fluid player? So everybody comes with a certain set of hard skills. And then we can teach the soft skills and we can develop those soft skills. And it's going to make you more rounded. It's going to increase your value. It's going to better your team.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I don't care if it's law enforcement, military, on the field, in the office, it's all going to pan out. It's all going to be relevant.
Totally. Yeah. I think, and again, I think people totally underestimate what it takes, to develop great leadership. I just think that there's so many books on leadership, but people, it's still the one thing that most struggle with. And I believe there's a couple of reasons why, Bill, and we can walk through this now. Yeah, I believe a fundamental reason for leadership fail is that leadership is like anything else, right? If you enjoy it, you're going to be better at it. If you have a hard skill for leadership, it's going to be easy for you. If you don't have the hard skill for leadership, you're going to require a lot of soft skill training, but it's still maybe something that you find difficult, you're not passionate about. So when I put this together, it says the biggest reasons leaders fail when it comes to talent development is simply time, effort, and energy.
Exactly.
It's hard stuff, man. Developing leadership is not something you learn in a weekend seminar. Certainly not.
No. And I feel personally that it's something leadership is something that you earn. You can't really, you can train it, but you have to earn it. You can train and go to seminars. You can sit through this. You can sit through that. You can, you can go through this example, that example, but you have to earn that ability to leadership. Those people have to respect you. They have to know that you care before they care how much you know. It's that if you're not leading by example, if you're not putting in the time, effort, and energy, like you say, into your self-development as a leader, then it's not going to happen. It's kind of like lead, follow, or get out of the way. It's got to happen. One of the things that cause people to fail is leadership, the failure to motivate. If you can't motivate people, then you probably shouldn't be in a position of leadership. If you are put into a position of leadership, then you need to learn how to motivate people, how to keep them engaged, how to keep them excited about what they're doing. What keeps you engaged and excited about what you're doing?
Yeah, it's really important to remember that, today's talk is about developing your talent, developing talent. But one person that's really important for you to always be developing is the lead dog, which is you. That I call you, and you should look at you. You're the captain of the team. You're the captain of the team. You're the captain of the ship. So it's really important that I can really look at things from this perspective and say, hey, you know what? If you have a team that isn't performing the way you want, if you keep running into these talent issues, these teams that are just not developed in certain areas, in certain categories, it's always you. It's always your fault.
Right.
So
the buck stops with you.
Yeah, I always say that, right? It always comes back to you. And when you learn to say, hey, it's me, well, it's you also why your team wins. It's you also why your team loses. And it's also, when you get everything right, everybody wins. And that's really what I find to be so important. But I can't tell you how many people I talk to that are in talent development or responsible for building teams in sports and business and hiring, and they don't want to put in the time. They really don't want to put in the effort, and they don't want to put in the energy. And I think the biggest fail for most leaders is this. They don't realize that you have to make time, you have to put in effort, and you got to bring energy every day. It's an essential 3-part formula that has no days off.
Right. That's exactly right. It's constant education. It's constant bettering yourself. It's constantly staying a step ahead of the other people to make sure that they're on board with you. that make sure, it's your communication, your motivation, your delivery. And like I said, before, they're not going to care what you know until they know you care. And I think one powerful statement, we're in this thing of, I don't care. We're going to get out there and we're going to kick rear end. We're going to do this and this is going to happen and this must happen and this must happen. But there's a lot of leaders that don't get engaged to that point. One of the things that I do that is so simple and it seems so small is just saying, hey, when we're done at the end of our sessions, everything, hey, have I told you guys today how much I love you? I do. And that statement has become so empowering, whether it's people just need to hear that, people that need to know that you care. It's part of your communication. It's part of your motivation. Hey, I'm going to go to the end of the world with this guy because this guy's got my back. This guy loves me. This guy, and it's not a touchy-feely thing. It's a thing that I think a lot of people don't hear nowadays. They don't even realize it. A lot of these corporate guys are stuck, and a lot of professional athletes are stuck in their own world, and they don't hear that. They need to hear stuff like that, and that's part of leadership. That's part of preparing yourself and preparing them and motivating and communicating to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think some people may hear that and say, hey, coach, that's great. But, I have HR to worry about and I have, all these reasons why I can't do that. And it's like, well, listen, find a way, right? It's when you're saying that, you're letting your team know that, hey, I'm in it with you guys and I'm willing to selflessly move you to where it is that you are capable of going, but also where you desire to go. Because there's people, and we both know this, that have so much capability, right? They have so much, projection. They have so much potential, but if they don't want it as much as you, the leader, wants it, you're in trouble.
Exactly. I mean, you can lead a dog to water, but you can't make him drink.
Yep.
I can press you. I can give you all the tools you need. But if you don't use those tools, if you don't have the heart to do them, and I always use this analogy, and it goes back to my own family. In baseball, my boys all played through college. One of them signed a pro contract. The other one was a draft selection that didn't take it. He went to college and got his education instead. But the whole deal was that they had a cage in the backyard to hit in. And I had guys that knew me or kids that I coached, their parents coming up and saying, don't you make your kid, don't you make your son go out there and hit for an hour every night? Don't you make him go out and take 200 ground balls every night? And I said, absolutely not. And they said, well, why not? And, my boys had everything in the way of baseball development available to them, from the top people in the game to all the tools they needed, but it didn't matter. They were there, but if they didn't have the heart, those tools were useless. Those people's words were void. So what I'm trying to get across here is I didn't force them to go out and do anything, because if they didn't have the heart, if they didn't have the internal desire, then no matter what I did to push them, it would only probably take them farther from the goal that they needed to be. But if I let them make their own decisions, which I did, then I knew that drive, that desire, that burn in their heart to be better, to get to the next level, to produce, to be a better teammate was inside of them. So instead of forcing them to go out and do everything, it was, you know what? I'm sitting here working, and they come and ask, hey, can you go out and throw me around in the cage? Stop what I'm doing, and we go.
Yeah.
But never did I force them to go out and do it, because it had to be that internal desire.
Absolutely. And I think
look at that.
Yeah, and I think what's cool with that, Bill, is that when they showed you desire, you immediately deployed yourself to be really, hey, I'm all in. I'm all on I'm on your team. I'm with you on this. Let's go make you great. And this is something, again, that I see this in business, right? It's like the old, everybody's too busy today, right? I'm too busy. I'm too busy. I'm too busy. And when was the last time you, as somebody in a business, had somebody come up to you and said, hey, Nick, what are you working on? What are you struggling with? How can I make you better today? How could I help you, right? There's sort of this lack of genuine interest in helping people unless there's something in it for me.
Right.
And that's in sports, again, I find it to be very different. Like coaching in sports is like, hey man, you're interested in getting better? Wow. I'm in there with you. Let's go make you great.
I'm going to lead you back to an earlier time that we were together, Dana, back in Jupiter, Florida.
Yeah.
And another dear friend of ours, Gene Watson, head of pro scouting, assistant to the GM for the Kansas City Royals. We work all morning. I mean, you were out there working guys until some of the guys lost their breakfast. But you know what? It was getting them to the next level. Hey, this is the work that's going to be required, and you're out here. You obviously have the desire to be here, so I'm on your team. I'm going to get you there. But then we have that lunch break before we start afternoon games, start afternoon training sessions, afternoon games. And when you have that person that has that desire to get better, and I don't know if you remember, I don't want to use names, but there was that one player and that came up to Gene and I and says, hey, look, I'm struggling on my hitting. Can you help me get better? Well, you know what? It's lunchtime. You want to talk to me after lunch? No, if you don't mind, I'd really like to work on it now. And you know what? We take our time. We lunch, we can have lunch anytime. In fact, we probably didn't even need lunch that day. But you know what? We put in that time day after day after day back in Jupiter and took every minute of free time where everybody else was over resting, everybody else was over chowing down, everybody else was calling home to their girlfriend or whatever. This guy was sweating it out in the cage. And we were in there throwing to him and making corrections and making him better. And then when it came game time in the afternoons, who started to excel? The guy on the phone all the time, the guy that was taking, eating 3 cheeseburgers and drinking a soda, which I watched you go through the chow hall and dump sodas and go ballistic, which was wonderful. But you know what? That's part of, does he have the internal drive? That guy had the internal drive. So we're on board. We'll give up what we need to give up to make him better.
Yeah. And alongside that, right, the internal drive, we're talking about talent development. Again, part of being a great talent evaluator is not just sitting behind a desk all day, right? You could evaluate talent in every moment. You could watch the cadence and the pace in which somebody walks through your work setting. You could see the facial expressions. You could listen to tonality as to how they talk on the phone, how they approach people. All of that is a part of talent evaluation. And it's a very, very important thing. We would always say in sports, hey, we could tell who a player is, and we could probably tell who the best player on the team is by how he walks off the bus. Exactly. The same is true in a work setting, any setting. Walk through a mall, walk through a public place, and very quickly you'll be able to identify the people that have great energy, the people that are magnetic, they attract people to them. You'll be able to see, the CEOs, the leaders. You'll be able to see who's depressed, who's upset. That's all intuitive, and you get better and you strengthen that intuition by constantly being around people.
If you're in a leadership role, if you're running a team, if you're a CEO, if you're a manager, a coach, and you're sitting back in an office while your team is out, then you're going to fail. Your team is probably going to fail. You're going to fail. Or somebody else out on that field stepped into your role because you're sitting in the office.
Yep.
Look at the Marine Corps. You could give the recruits a basic agenda and send them out to do it, but there's always a drill instructor with them, and he's on them, and he's on them, and he's on them, and he's pressing and pressing. He's pumping knowledge into their head, constantly pumping knowledge, demanding that they produce effort, and they're either, you talk about getting on that bus, they're either on the bus or they're off the bus. So they get the right people on the bus and you get the wrong people off the bus. So they're either on or they're off, but you're going to know who they are. But you only get to know who they are by being out there. If you're a coach and you're sitting back in an office, there's a problem. If you're a coach and you're letting other people coach your people, then there's a problem. You need to be out on the field. You need to be constantly involved in what they do. Even though you have other coaches in place, hitting specialists, base running specialists, infield specialists, outfield specialists, you still have to be revolving around all those people, listening, knowing what they're doing, making suggestions, hearing things. And it's always a daily learning response for you also, because you're always going to pick up something that you really didn't know. Every day I learn something new. I don't care if it's from a high schooler, a college guy, or a pro guy. And if you ever stop learning, or if you ever detach yourself from what you're doing, you're in trouble.
Yeah. And Bill,
so same with law enforcement. You can sit back in an office, or you can be out in the car with your people.
Yep. And I want to say this because I think it's really critical today. You know, as you're saying that, I'm thinking about one thing, right? I'm thinking about this phone. It's one of the greatest distractions of our time. Now, it's useful in some ways, but it becomes a major distraction when it is creating a divide between you and your people. And I see it more and more in business settings where, you know, you see people walking through the hallway like this, you know, when they had the opportunity to say to that person that was walking by, hey, how's your day going?
Exactly. I've seen people text, I see you working. They're right next to them.
Yeah.
Why didn't you just walk up and say, hey, you know what? I see you working. I love it. Good job.
Yep. We can't be afraid to dig in because, again, I love to go full circle, right? When it comes to developing talent development is really based on a connection. It's based on you connecting with your talent and you understanding who your talent really is. What makes them tick? What do they like? What don't they like? What do they respond to? What don't they respond to? It's the same with players. Some players respond to a tough tone. Hey, let's go. Come on. Other players they appreciate you to be a little bit softer. But the only way you know that is by understanding the player. I mean, I've seen it for years in developing the physicality side of players. There's certain players like an Andy Pettit and an A-Rod that you push. There's players like Jeter that don't want that. They want to know what they have to do, and they want you to step back. So you have to know your talent, and in order to develop your talent, you first have to know your talent.
And to know your talent, the only way you're going to know your talent is to be with them and be engaged.
Yep.
If you disengage yourself, then you're going to have a disengaged group. It's just like we talk about families. Part of that disengagement of that dysfunctional family is that, hey, are you sitting around the table? Are you all eating dinner together? Or are you seeing each other for a few minutes a day? Are you talking to each other by the phone, or are you talking to each other face to face? My guys pick up a phone. I tell them, hey, it better be your agent. And if it's not your agent, then you're probably going to need your agent. So, you know, it's a fact that if you're going to be a leader, if you're going to have a cohesive team, if you're going to have a team that will follow you, you have to be engaged.
Yeah.
You can't be disengaged from them.
Absolutely. So heading back here, right? You know, what are we looking for when it comes to talent? You know, both the obvious and the not obvious. Listen, you have the answer. And that's something I say, right? We hit on this earlier. When you're building a team, you have to know how you want your team to function. You have to predetermine what you want the identity of your team to be. And you also have to determine what it is that your team stands for. Like we said earlier, are you a speed-based team? Are you a gritty team? Are you a highly competitive team? One of my friends is the CEO of Under Armour, where he just stepped down. He's the chairman now of Under Armour, Kevin Plank. And he said right from the beginning, I'm a former athlete and I want my company to run like a competitive sports team. So you know what he did? He made it virtually a prerequisite to work at his company. You had to be a former athlete, because only you, being a former athlete, would understand the high intensity, you know, culture. Do whatever it takes. Pick up a teammate. If you have to work late, you have to work late, all in pursuit of the win. That's his company. I'm sure other apparel companies like a Lululemon, which is a bit more gentle, works a little bit different. But how does your company and how does your team work? And that, when you figure that out, you pick the right talent that matches up with what it is that you want.
Right. That's exactly right. And you have to be able to hit everybody on their level. So it's like the Under Armour guy. That group where his direction is going, he has to put that team together first. He has to get the who. And once that who is together, then he can determine the direction that he's got to go and where that team is headed, where they're off to conquer.
Yeah.
And it's just a different environment, but you have to be ready for all of them. You have to be able to engage in all of them, and you have to be cognizant of all of them.
Yeah, so true. And a saying that, that we have over in Yankee universe is, listen, it's your job as a leader to get everybody out of the cart and get them to pull the cart, right? If too many people are sitting in the cart and waiting for other people to pull the cart, you're going to get yourself in some big trouble. We wanted everybody out, pulling, and that's the culture and the expectation. So once you have a culture and you have an expectation and then you could really start going after also the who. This is the who that we need to continue this legacy. And that's why I find too, you talk about great coaches over the years like Phil Jackson. He won with the Bulls, he won with the Lakers. Mike Krzyzewski, Coach K at Duke. He wins at Duke and is competitive almost every year. The Yankees, love him or hate him, same sort of thing. It's because they know who they need in order to win, right? And so many companies, right? I ask them to profile their people, almost give me a scouting report on their people, and they can't do it because they don't truly know who they're looking for, right? They may have one outlier, but for the most part, a lot of the people are working in the same zone. So it's just important to know the type of people that you need in order to get the outcome that you want.
Exactly.
With that said, there is a question, right? Hey, coach, do I hire talent or do I develop talent? And I believe, and I'm sure, Bill, you'll chime in on this too, it's both. You hire great talent. You hire the best possible people that match your culture, match your energy, and match your mission, and then you develop the hell out of that talent.
Yes. A couple of things I think that come to mind is when you hire talent, you're hiring somebody that is probably at the top of their game. They're probably highly sought after. They're going to come with a bigger price. Do they have the same company or team goals that your organization has? Or are they on a different game plan based on where they came from? Are they proficient at what they do? Yes. They're the top of what they do? Yes. But do they fit into your culture? I don't know. And, when you talk about that, or do you hire the guy who is capable and who is doing what's required, and that person is coachable, is trainable, and that you use that person knowing his connection to the company, to the business, that his work ethic, his desire, his want to, he wants to improve, he wants to excel, he wants to expand his horizon. And then you put the things in place to develop that person, because then you have a person that you have developed from within your organization, kind of like when we were in the minor leagues. You develop, the 2014 San Francisco Giants, that team that won the World Series, that team was originally all Giants minor leaguers. Even though they had come up through the Giants system, and a lot of them went out to other organizations, they all came back. Yeah. And so that was a product of internal development. So, and it produced a world championship team. So do you go after that highly sought after performer, or do you develop your internal talent? Yeah. And I'm a big, sometimes you have to do both, but I'm a big supporter of developing your internal talent, because there's people within your organization that will take that and soar.
Yeah. And what's cool is they already know the culture. They know what you stand for and what the expectations are, provided they've been clearly outlined. This is something I wanted to go over quick. And I know we only have a couple more minutes here, because I know some people are on lunch breaks, and we appreciate you hanging with us. But, what are some strategies? No, it's all good. What are some strategies that can be used to develop talent when talent is not performing to its potential. And I put this slide up. I've been teaching off this a lot lately, and it's where I am to where I want to be, right? So this performance gap, that is your potential. So simply, this is my perspective, when you don't necessarily need a strategy to get somebody to what they're capable of or to the place that they should be. Number one, they have to have the desire, like we said, but it's also up to you again as the talent developer to show them where they are and show them where they could be, and then also help them map the plan. So when you show them where they are, you show them where they could be, you get them to believe in that, and they may already believe in it, which is great. Then together you collectively work on a plan, and as the talent developer, it's your job to hold them accountable to that plan and them to hold themselves accountable to that plan. So that's the way I see talent develop, just in general. Move people to where they should be and what they're capable of being.
When we talk about putting people on the bus, taking the people off the bus who don't belong in the bus, it's also putting people in the right seats on that bus.
I'm going to accelerate to that slide, right?
You have that slide.
And we didn't talk about that. We did do a prep call yesterday.
Yes.
We spent most of our time, catching up with each other. So, but I do have that slide, right? Right player, right seat, and the right bus.
Exactly. You can fill the bus with the right people, but do you have the right people in the right seat?
Yep.
So,
and that goes down to, again, everything we talked about thus far today. It really distills down to this simple thing, right? When you develop talent, the best thing is who that player is. You've connected to that player. And here's the thing, right? You may have people that are the right player, they're in the right seat, and they're on the right bus right now. But in a few months, a few weeks, they may not be the right player anymore. They may need a new seat on a new bus, and you may need a new player. And I say that because, again, I think a big part of talent development is this. You have to know that your talent may leave you. Your talent actually should probably leave you at some point when they're no longer challenged if you brought in the right talent. So don't, as a leader that develops talent, say, hey, I failed because this person left. No. If that person did well and succeeded while they were under your leadership and next to you in battle, you did a great job. They are going to leave at some point, right? Because people are dynamic. They're not static.
Right. And when you talk about talent leaving you, if you're not motivating, if you're not pressing those people to be better, and showing them that there's more inside of them, and this is how we're going to get it out, and this is how you can get it out, then they're going to get static. You got to look at it's kind of like that 10-year rule. If you're looking at being a world-class athlete, if you're working at being a world-class CEO, like a world-class athlete, you're looking at 10,000 hours of dedicated, on-point practice and dedication time. And when you're playing baseball from 5 to 17, 18, you may have 3,000 hours only. That's on point, dedicated in the trench, honest to goodness practice, not just being out at a practice, but actually working 100%. You may have 3,000 hours. You go into a college program, hey, in 4 years, if I work 5 hours a day, for 300 days, that's another 1,500 hours. By the time I'm done with 4 years of college, now I got 6,000 hours. I had 3,000. I'm at 9,000. I'm still not at that 10,000 level, but I'm more educated. I've had a better strength of schedule. I've got better coaching. I've had a more challenging environment, and all the way around, academically, physically, mentally. I've bettered myself, and I'm going to continue to better myself. It helps those people stop from being stagnant, so you can retain some of that talent that you've grown. Yeah,
that homegrown talent. So, just kind of bringing everything full circle. The biggest takeaways that I would love for you to have, and I'm sure Bill has one or two himself, is just remember this. Developing talent, it takes time, it takes energy, it takes passion, and it takes desire. But I think most of all, what it takes is it takes committed interest. It takes you having a committed interest in somebody else's development right from the first interaction, from the time their resume hits your desk or the first time you see them, right? All those first times, they all matter. And then use your intuition, use your gut, learn their makeup, right? Project on them a bit and see who they can be and identify very quickly hard skills and soft skills. And when you do that and you're connected and you're with them and you're watching each person, you have a chance to really develop great talent over time. And that's the key, over time.
Yes. You know, Dana, that was outstanding. I want to add a couple things to it. Don't be afraid to fail. You need to take risks. Expect your people to fail. Tell them, I expect you to fail. But we're going to learn from that failure. We're going to learn from that growth. I'll put it real quick. When we get young amateur players and they're standing on first base and there's plenty of opportunities for them to take second base and they don't do it. And because especially in that amateur culture or the young employee culture, they're afraid to fail. They're afraid to make a mistake. And you have to let them know there is no growth without failure. There is no growth without mistakes. This is how we learn. This is how we develop. This is how we move on.
Yeah. It's almost like you're being a mistake-based organization. People would think that's a very negative thing, but you have to fail in order to succeed, and you got to make those mistakes in order to innovate and in order to develop and grow.
That's right.
Yeah.
How do we don't come up with solutions to problems. And a problem was a failure. Something failed. How do we get through it? So failure is growth. Failure is education, and we continue to develop. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't put your people in a mindset where they're afraid to fail. Just let them know that, hey, we're going to grow from this. We're going to and give them the tools to do it. That's the important thing.
Yeah. No, I love that. Well, listen, everybody, I try to keep these between 40 minutes and an hour max. So we got 2 minutes left on the clock. So I appreciate everybody coming out. I appreciate, Coach Bill, taking time and spending time with us on this early California day. And again, if you guys ever need anything, please reach out. I'm here to help. I know Coach Bill is here to help. We love the title that we have of coach, because we get to coach people, and it's what we love to do, and it's what we're passionate about, and it fires us up to see you all go on and do great things, and we just hope that we added value to your day, and most importantly, not just your day, but value to your life.
For me, I've hit my peaks. I've gone through my valleys. I've hit my peaks. I've had my championships. I've had my uptime. I've had my 15 minutes of fame. My job now is to help you get where you need to go. So, if you reach out to me, I'll do the best I can. You can reach out to me through Dana. You can find me online. And Dana, I appreciate you having me on. And anytime you need me, want me, brother, I'm here for you. I love you.
All right. Well, we love all you guys, and thanks for coming out, so we told you we love you today.
If I haven't, I just did.
There you go. Cool. Bill, thanks, brother. I'll talk to you soon. And thank you, everybody. Dana. Have a great day. Make sure you go out and win this thing. I think we got about, 86 days left in this year. So finish strong. We'll be seeing you on the other side.
Win every day. Stay blessed.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Take care.